Hi, Teri here from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is this beautiful card. I used dies from the Peony die set to create this gorgeous flower, and I'll take you through how to build this flower in the video. I've also used paper from the Peony Garden Designer Series paper pack. The other paper is from the Brights 6-inch Designer Series paper pack. So let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for all the elements required to create this project. So if you're interested in reproducing it, take a screenshot so you can refer to it later. This is the Prized Peony stamp set, and I'm going to use this sentiment for my card today. I'll be using Versamark ink to stamp the sentiment, and I'll do this after prepping with my embossing buddy. I can then cover with white embossing powder and heat set it with my heat gun. The sentiment will be die cut using the smallest of the stitched rectangle dies. I need to die cut the mats to go above and below my centre panel, and I'm using one of the Hippo and Friends dies for this, and this is the larger one of this set. Now I'm going to die cut from Petal Pink card. You can either die cut the whole shape from one piece of card, or you can do like I'm doing and use up two smaller pieces. Just lay the die over the top of them. If you use one piece of card, you want to cut this in half once you're done. I'll be using the Peony die set to die cut everything else. Now I've separated my dies onto two magnetic sheets. On one side I've got the outline dies and the border. I'll use the border die to die cut a strip of basic grey card. The outline dies I won't need because they're for the stamped images. And then on my second sheet I've got all the dies I need to build my flower and leaves. There are just 4 dies required to build this beautiful flower, and I'm going to die cut them from normal weight Whisper White card. And you just need to cut one of each shape. There is one stamen die, and I'm going to cut this from black cardstock, and there are 6 dies for the leaves. 3 of them are outline dies, and I'll use a Pear Pizzazz card for these. And then you have 3 accent pieces, one for each leaf, and these are completely optional. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. And I'm going to die cut these from Old Olive cardstock. The small Whisper White panel for the front of the card will be embossed using the Dainty Diamonds 3D embossing folder. If you cut your Petal Pink mat from one piece of card, you now need to cut the die cut in half. I'm going to add one piece to the top of this white panel and one to the bottom, and this was embossed just using normal weight Whisper White card. Now I'm going to use my grid paper to help me line up these pieces and get them even. First of all, I want to cut off some of the excess from the sides. The first thing I'm going to do is take one of the Petal Pink pieces and add just a little temporary adhesive onto the reverse. Then I'm going to position it onto my grid paper so the 2 little points on the bottom line up with one of the grid lines. And I'm just eyeballing the rest of it to make sure it looks straight. Then I will take my white panel and I'm going to position it about ½ an inch up. Each of the grid squares on this grid paper is 1/4 of an inch. I'm making sure that it's straight and centered. There's just a tiny overhang of white on the edges of the Petal Pink mat. Then I'm going to add some glue right to the bottom edge of my white panel and then to the back side of the Petal Pink mat. Then I can position and press down. and you want to leave this then until it's dry. If you move it too soon, then the mats can shift. Once the glue's dry, I can carefully ease up my panel from the mat, and then I just need to repeat everything for the other side. I can remove the temporary adhesive by running my finger over it. Then any little bits of petal pink that are showing on the sides of the panel, I can just snip off with scissors. I'm going to build my leaves first of all, and this is just a case of adding the little accent piece on top of the full leaf. So I'm just going to add a little wet adhesive to the reverse of each of these accent pieces and then line them up onto each respective leaf. And then I'm just going to leave the glue to dry for a little while I build my flower, and then I'll add a little additional colour to these. Now before building my flower, I'm going to add the colour first of all, and for this one I'm using petal pink. When I come to do the leaves, I'll be using Old Olive ink. I'll be applying the ink using sponge daubers. So I'm going to pick up my petal pink and then apply it all around the outside edge of the flower. And then I'm also going to apply it to the top edge of the cut piece. You don't need to apply it to the bottom edge because that's not going to show. I can then add the colour to the remaining 3 pieces in exactly the same way. I can now add the Old Olive ink around the edges of all the leaves. The flower is really simple to put together, and it's really clever how they've designed this. Now you can either slot them in together from the top end or from the bottom end. I find it easier to do it from the bottom and slide them into position. And you'll see that the bottom edge shapes line up exactly for all 4 pieces. So I'm adding glue to my smaller piece, and then I'll line up the bottom edge with the next size up. And then I can repeat this for the next size. So again, I'm going up from the bottom and just slide it into position, get it lined up, and then add some glue. I'm just adding it along the bottom edge, but you could just put a dollop in the middle if you want to. And then align those bottom edges again, and you can see how the flower is building. And again the final piece. So just slide it in and then line up that bottom edge so everything matches. A little bit more glue, and then press it all together, making sure it's all aligned. And look how pretty that is. It's just a gorgeous flower. And then the last thing to do is to add the stamen piece, and this just slots into the centre of the flower. So I'm just going to add a little glue to the reverse of it and then slide it into position. I now want to finish building my centre panel. So the first thing I need to do is decide what twine or ribbon I'm going to use. Now you could use anything you've got and it will look absolutely fine. I've got some white and blushing bride baker's twine here. This is retired and that would work really well. I've also got some white and silver sort of sparkly twine that I think is retired as well now, and I like the look of that more so than the blushing bride. I've also got some petal pink ribbon, and this has a gold edging which I think would look lovely, but I do prefer the white and silver twine. Now some of the new ribbon we've got is some grey granite shimmer ribbon. Now this would look lovely if instead of using the basic grey I'd used grey granite, so I'm definitely not going to use this for the card. Although I really like how the petal pink ribbon looks with the gold trim, I think I might stick just with the silver and white baker's twine. To help me secure the twine, I'm going to add a little piece of tear and tape adhesive to the reverse. And then I'm just going to wrap the twine around the top of the white panel just a couple of times, and then I just need to make sure I've got enough length to tie a bow. So I'm making sure that the twine is on that tear and tape on the reverse, and then where I'm going to tie my bow I'm just going to add a glue dot. This will help secure the bow in place and stop it unravelling, and it also helps me tie the bow. It's like a third hand. I can now position the sentiment strip towards the bottom of this panel, and I've already gone ahead and added dimensionals to the back of this. And I can now position my leaves. Now for the leaves, it doesn't matter which side you've got pointing outwards, if that makes sense. You just place them however you wish to place them, whatever looks good to you. I've also added lots of dimensionals to the reverse of my flower, and I can remove the backings now and position this onto my panel. I can also trim the ends to my twine. My card base is in basic grey, and this is half a standard sheet of card scored in the middle and folded to create a portrait card. Then for the inside of the card I've got a normal weight Whisper White matte, and I'll decorate this using a strip of basic grey onto which I've layered some of the matching Peony Garden paper. Then I've got two more pieces of the same paper, Peony Garden, and to the grey one I'm going to add the little border strip, and then these will all be added to the front of my card. And that's it. That's my card complete. I love this flower. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. If you'd like to give the flower a little extra dimension, you can ease out those top edges of each of the layers just using your fingers. And here's another look at my original card. Now the contrast colour here was Daffodil Delight. The paper was from the Bright's 6-inch Designer Series paper collection, and the twine was just some other twine I had in my stash that's now retired. And then I did make an additional card. The Highland Heather paper was from the Gingham Gala paper pack that we had a while ago now. And I used grey granite as the grey for this one, so I was able to use the new grey granite shimmer ribbon, and you can see that it looks just as gorgeous as the twine. The Best Wishes sentiment comes from the Borders Abound stamp set. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.